So this video is for the GCSE Trilogy students who couldn't make it in for the days with the Year 10's. So this is the work that you need to complete to be at the same place as the people that came into school. So we're going to start off by looking at Chapter 3 and a few things from Chapter 3 on communicable diseases. So we're going to look at what a communicable disease is, the types of organisms that cause them, a little bit about the human defence system and how it prevents them coming in, and then how vaccinations work. To accompany this, you will need to either print off the worksheet, or if you can't print it off, doesn't matter, you can just draw these very simple tables or write out the correct answers either into your notes or just on some paper for later. So let's start by a second part of the worksheet, having a look at what causes diseases. So what causes diseases are microorganisms, and these microorganisms come in three different sorts: viruses, bacteria, fungi and protists. And next to them you can see the types of diseases that these individual microorganisms cause. So on your worksheet, okay, you've got space to fill in what causes infectious diseases, and you've got space to fill in the 4 different types of pathogens. So viruses cause diseases such as the flu, the common cold. Bacteria, they cause diseases such as things like salmonella, food poisoning. Okay, fungi, you're talking things like athlete's foot or ringworm. And protists, they cause malaria. So all of these microorganisms cause diseases, so we call them pathogens, but not all microorganisms cause diseases. Microorganisms that cause diseases are called pathogens, but not all microorganisms cause diseases. So for example, the bacteria that you find in yogurt or cheese, they don't cause diseases, but they are still microorganisms. So these are some pictures of our different types of pathogens. So you can see here that viruses are quite small. They're the smallest of all the pathogens. They're very regular in shape. They're very simple. They're just there's just a simple protein coat with some DNA inside of them. They do not contain, they're not considered to be living. Okay. Bacteria come in lots of different shapes. Those ones there are sort of rod shaped, but they also come in little spheres, slightly bigger. Protists are single-celled organisms that have a nucleus but like to live on their own. And fungi come from something as small as yeast right up to something as large as a mushroom. So these are our pathogens, and they cause all communicable diseases. And a communicable disease is one that can be passed on from person to person. So what we have initially is a way of trying to stop these pathogens getting into the body. And these methods here we've got are called non-specific ways. So first of all, in your nose, when you breathe in and you breathe out, there are hairs and sticky mucus, and then the cells contain even smaller hair-like structures called cilia that trap the bacteria or the microorganisms and stop them going in through your nose. So it's always better to breathe through your nose. If they do get into your nose, okay, and they pass into your trachea, again we have mucus and we have cilia. The mucus traps the dust and the pathogens, the cilia waft it up, and then you swallow it, where hopefully it goes into your stomach, and your stomach contains hydrochloric acid, which will kill the pathogens. Also, we just try to stop them getting in the first place, so we have our entire body covered in skin with just a few holes like your nose and your mouth and your ears to allow the pathogens to get in. So these are called non-specific, or sometimes your first line of defence. So if they do get into our body, they do survive the hydrochloric acid in the stomach, or they do survive getting up your nose, they then make us feel ill. And they do this in a couple of different ways. The first thing they do is they reproduce rapidly. So they find somewhere, it might be inside a cell if it's a virus, it just might be in the bloodstream if it's a bacteria, and they reproduce rapidly. Okay. Now what bacteria then do is they release toxins. Those toxins make us feel ill. Right? They damage the tissues and they make us feel ill. Viruses don't produce toxins, but they get inside our cells, they reproduce, and then when they leave the cells they cause a lot of damage. So on your worksheet you have a table that looks like this. So I suggest you pause the video and try and tick the correct boxes. So, produces toxins, is bacteria but not viruses, reproduces rapidly, both, lives inside our cells, viruses, damages our tissues, both. So, you now have an exam question, and again, if you pause the video, have a go at the exam question. You should feel confident enough now to answer these questions. And here are the answers. Check your work. Right, there will be a link on Show My Homework to this video clip. So you need to watch this video clip, which will explain a little bit more about how vaccines work. Okay, and then we'll just run through that very quickly. So essentially a vaccine is a dead or denatured part of usually the microorganism. So that gets injected into the body, and then what happens is your white blood cells recognise that this is an invading microorganism, and it starts to produce antibodies. Antibodies are made and they then destroy the pathogen, the dead or denatured part of the pathogen that you've been injected with. This means that if you then come into contact with that actual pathogen, you'll be able to produce those antibodies much faster and in much larger amounts, and they will destroy the pathogen and you won't suffer from the effects of that disease. Okay, so you've got a worksheet with some muddled up steps on. I suggest you pause the video and have a look through those. And here are the correct answers. So 1, the sample pathogen is weakened or killed. 2, a small amount of the dead or inactive pathogen is put into a sterile liquid. 3, it is injected into a person. This is a vaccination. 4, the person's white blood cells make antibodies against the pathogen. 5, the antibodies are specific to the antigens found in the vaccination. 6, some white blood cells remain that will recognise the pathogen if it infects the body in future. 7, if the pathogen enters the body in the future, the white blood cells will work much more quickly to produce the specific antibodies needed to destroy the pathogen. And this faster response protects the person from getting ill with the disease. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. If you just make sure that you've filled in the worksheet, had a go at the exam question, then you'll be up to date. Thank you.